All right, welcome back to WMAC Now with your host, Chuck Stevenson, coming at you with a big fight announcement. So Invicta FC, the North American or US-based all-women's mixed martial arts promotion, has announced its 51st numbered event. It's going to go down Wednesday, January 18th at Real Works in Denver, Colorado. So it will be at Denver for the second straight event. And they have promised us 7 bouts, capped off by 2 title fights, as you can see here by the fight poster. We've got a Bantamweight championship and a bout for the vacant flyweight championship. I like both of these fights. One of them I like a little more than the other, but I think, honestly, looking at this fight card, this should be pretty darn good. We've got a decent variety of the weight classes represented, and some of these fights should really help get Invicta set up for the next year and get things going for all of their divisions. So let's go ahead and get down into it now. I'm going to talk about a little bit about each fight, but it's not going to be an in-depth breakdown. We'll save that for closer to the event because, let's be honest, more than likely, at least one of these fights is going to get canceled before then. So we'll break it down closer to the event. But for now, we're just going to go over and discuss a little bit about each fight. So starting off the evening will be a strawweight bout. We have Fatima Klein taking on Laura Gallardo. Klein comes in at 2-0. Gallardo brings in a record of 4-1. Now, Klein is coming off of a TKO win over Sydney Trio at Invicta 47 back in, May. Gallardo has not had an official fight since she took a split decision win over Helen Peralta for CFFC back in May of last year. Now, she was on the Ultimate Fighter season 30 earlier this year, where she went 1-1 on the show. So she has been active, just not with official fights since then. Klein comes in at 22 years old. I could not find an age available for Laura Gallardo. This should be a good one. Both of these ladies are very good on the ground. Pure grappling, got to give the edge to Fatima Klein. For MMA, I think Gallardo evens it out a bit more, but this is going to be a very exciting fight. Now, if it stays on the feet, probably won't be as pretty, but why would either of these two ladies leave it on the feet? So I'm very much looking forward to a grappling heavy but aggressive grappling heavy bout for this one in the strawweight division. So this should be a good one. Next up, we have an atomweight bout. Katie Saul taking on Hayani Amanda. Saul comes in with a record of 5-5. Amanda coming in with a record of 12-6. Let's see. Hayani Amanda last fought in October. She picked up a submission win at Mag Fight 1. I'm guessing that was in Brazil. She's Brazilian. Katie Saul last fought in July. Picked up a win over Gloria Bravo in Combate Global. In what was arguably an upset fight there. Amanda will be the younger fighter at 27. Katie Saul comes in at 35 years old. I don't know why Combate let Saul walk away after that win. She beat their number 2 or number 3 ranked atomweight. And then here she is in Invicta starting off the year. I don't know what Combate Global was thinking. Sometimes promotions are just like that, though. They bring someone in intending to get with their fighter a win, their fighter a win, and then their fighter gets beat, and then they let that other fighter walk. Combate's loss is going to be Invicta's gain, I think, here. I don't know anything about Hayani Amanda yet. Has a decent record. We'll see how good she is when she takes on the Queen of the North. Next up, we have another atomweight bout. Marissa Messer-Belenquia takes on Alessandra Fajeda, who is a new signing for Invicta as well. Messer-Belenquia comes in at 5-1. Fajeda comes in at 4-2. Belenquia last fought in June, where she picked up a unanimous decision win for Reality Fighting. Fajeda is coming off of a technical decision loss at Palace Athena 2 for the vacant inaugural atomweight championship. Vejeda is the younger fighter at 24. Belenkia comes in at 31. This should be a good one. I just want to make a note on Vejeda's last fight. She got absolutely freaking robbed against the hometown fighter there. She fought Anastasia Nikolakakos, and Anastasia should have been disqualified. She had like at least three blatant fouls, one of them being an absolute blatant headbutt on the ground. And it was after, I think it was after the headbutt, Vejeda couldn't continue, and they went to the judges' scorecards. It's like, that was an obviously intentional foul. It should have been DQ. But Pallas Athena's loss is going to be Invicta's gain. So we'll see how she does a little bit more south of Canada in Denver. Moving on, we have a bantamweight bout. We've got Claire Guthrie taking on Autumn Norton. Grizzly Guthrie coming in at 4-1. The natural Autumn Norton coming in at 2-1. Norton's coming in off of a TKO win over Maria Dukic at Invicta 48 back in July. Really fun, really exciting win there. Guthrie's coming in off of a unanimous decision win over Bridget Chase at Invicta 50 last month in November. Looks like Norton's the elder fighter here by 1 year, 28 to Guthrie's 27 years old. Norton packs a wallop. I will definitely say that. Guthrie seems to be ready to stay at bantamweight here. She was fighting at flyweight for her first few fights. Even participated, at the Ultimate Fighter 30 earlier this year at flyweight, but fought her last fight at bantamweight. Now she's taking on another one. Not sure if that's because, it's relatively short notice, only a month, or if she just wants to move up. But we'll see how she does at bantamweight against a hard hitter like Autumn Norton. Then we have another bantamweight bout. Serena De Jesus taking on former title challenger Olga Rubin. De Jesus coming in at 5-2. Rubin coming in at 7-3. De Jesus coming in off of a unanimous decision over Brittany Cloudy at Invicta 47 this past May. Rubin's coming in off of a split decision loss in a title challenge bid against the champ Taneisha Tennant back at Invicta 48 in July. Rubin is the elder fighter, 33 to 34 De Jesus. I'm going to be honest here. I think De Jesus is getting hard done by Invicta here. I mean, I think she's on like a 3 or 4 fight winning streak, and I think all of them have come in Invicta. Why isn't she the one fighting for the title? Now, granted, she's coming off a decision, and the lady fighting for the title's coming off a finish, but I think De Jesus had earned the title shot this time. If she gets by Rubin and does anything better than a split decision, then she'll definitely have earned a title shot. And they'll have no excuse to not make it after this one. Rubin had a very close fight against the champ, Taneisha Tennant, came up short. We'll see if she can bounce back here. So now we move on to the co-main event, the vacant flyweight championship. We've got Kristina Warhorse Williams taking on Ketlen Souza. Williams coming in at 6-3. Souza more experienced, coming in at 12-3. Both ladies coming in off of wins. Souza coming off a unanimous decision over Mayu Suwatama at Invicta 49 back in September. Williams coming in off of her first ever submission win over Liana Perosian back in Invicta 48 in July. Souza will be the younger fighter here by, looks like, 6 years. She's 27 to Williams's 33. Now, I'm going to be honest again here. I think this should be the main event. Now, granted, it's flyweight and the main event's bantamweight. Traditionally, you go with the heavier division for the main event. However, I would argue that this should be the main event because out of the 2 championship fights, this is the one that is more likely to end up in a finish. Looking at Souza's record, she is an absolute finisher. And Williams isn't a bit of a finisher herself. You got 2 finishers against each other. Why isn't this should be the main event? Because you want the fight that's going to be more exciting to cap off the evening, and finishes are far more exciting than decisions, right? That's what I've heard elsewhere, so I'm going to go with that. Williams, this is her big chance at 33. You know, she's got to get a win here. Get back, you know, into get the notice of the bigger promotions after this one. For Souza, still young at 27, but this is a chance for her to make a name for herself against a big promotion veteran like Williams. Williams having already fought for Bellator, but you got to imagine she wants to either get back to Bellator or even more likely get into the UFC. At 33, it's going to get harder for her, but if she can get a win here and get that Invicta gold, I mean, that's practically an UFC call-up guaranteed anyway. Then we have the main event for the Bantamweight Championship, the champ, Taneisha Tennant, taking on the challenger, Talita Bernardo, the UFC veteran. Tennant coming in at 5-1, Bernardo coming in at 9-4. Now, Tennant last fought, picking up a split decision win in her first title defense against Olga Rubin back in Invicta 48 in July. Bernardo last fought in Invicta 50 just last month in November, picking up a submission win over Katarina Lenner. Bernardo is slightly older at 35 to 33 for Tennant. Now, if I were no, I won't say that. If you're looking for this fight to end in a finish, I would say it's more likely to come from Talita Bernardo. I mean, she's coming off of 2 straight submission wins, and she's been a decent finisher throughout her career. I mean, not a great finisher, but a decent finisher throughout her career. Whereas Tennant hasn't finished anybody since her first fight back in, I want to say, 2018 or 19. Got a kick to the body win, but ever since then, it's been all decisions. So if you're looking for a finish, it's more likely to come from Bernardo than Tennant. Bernardo has got to get this fight to the ground, and she's got to close in on Tennant. And, you know, I was looking at the height and reach on these two. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick here. If I remember correctly, it's going to be very hard just based on the physical ability attributes alone between Bernardo and Tennant. Yeah, Tennant's 3 inches and 7 centimeters taller and has a reach advantage of 4 inches and 10 centimeters. So the physical dimensions alone are going to make it harder for Bernardo to get it to the ground. And then the absolute style of Tennant, who likes to stay at range, that's going to make it even harder for Bernardo. We'll see if she can get it done or if Tennant's going to, you know, strike her way to another victory. I'm personally not a huge fan of Tennant, but I recognize her skill. But I'm going to say this. She has a small but very vocal fan base, and they're very vocal about why hasn't the UFC picked her up yet. Listen, this is Tennant's chance. I said this in her last fight. This is absolutely her chance. She's coming in here against a UFC veteran. Bernardo has fought in the UFC before. She's got to go for the finish in this fight. Her last 2 fights, she's had her opponents hurt or at least stunned and then backed off. You want to catch the eyes of the UFC, you got to start getting some finishes. I mean, you've got to snap out those finishes. If you can't force the finish, at least look for the opportunities when they arise and seize on them when they're there. If not, she's just going to keep racking up decisions, and the UFC is going to go, well, why do we want another decisionator? It's harsh, but that's the truth. UFC more and more wants exciting fighters, not decision fighters. So if Tennant wants to get noticed, and like all of her fans want her to get noticed, she's got to make waves in this bout, particularly against a fighter who was already in the UFC once. So she has that, that aura over her. Bernardo has that UFC veteran aura. But it's not enough to just get wins over UFC veterans. You've got to make them exciting. You've got to, make it stand out. So this is Tennant's chance here, not only to defend her belt, but to really impress, the matchmakers and the bigger promotions. And not just the UFC's out there, Bellator's out there too. Granted, she'd have to go fight at featherweight, but that's an option as well. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Invicta FC 51 goes down Wednesday, January 18th at Real Works in Denver. Should be available for everyone on Invicta's YouTube channel, but also check out invictafc.com for any other broadcast listings. I like the card. We're getting 2 title fights to start off the year. I think should make for a fun card. Now, one thing I want to add to this before we go. Looks like Denver might be Invicta's new home, or at least one of their new homes, now that they've gone out on the road a little more away from just, Kansas City. Last week, One Championship announced that they are going to be having their United States debut in May in Denver, Colorado on a Friday night. I think this is a huge, huge opportunity for Invicta FC. I have to look up the date that One Championship has that event scheduled. So that's scheduled for Friday, May 5th. So Wednesday, May 3rd, I think Invicta should schedule an event on that date and then piggyback off of One Championship being there, because they're going to be, for One Championship's US debut, there's going to be a lot of fan interest and there's going to be a lot of media interest. And I think that if Invicta were smart, Shannon Knapp is no dummy. If they're smart, they would schedule an event for Wednesday, May 3rd, and piggyback off of it. Even if they don't work with One Championship officially, simply having an event 2 days before in the same town is going to get them a lot of exposure. So hopefully One Championship, Invicta and Shannon Knapp, the president, maybe gets that into her head like, oh, One Championship's coming to Denver. We've been having events in Denver. We should have an event the same week. They did that once before in Vegas with the UFC during International Fight Week. And that was, one of the biggest events Invicta had. Certainly probably the biggest event they had up to that point. And I think if they, arranged an event for the 2 days before One Championship's US debut, you're going to have a lot of fighters in town who will show up to your event. You're going to have One Championship executives there, including their talent scouts and like Rich Franklin. And you're going to have a lot of MMA media there. And for the MMA media, they can, come in a day or two early for Invicta, and then they have twice as much to talk about. And then boom, Invicta is being talked about on the same week that One Championship's US debut is being talked about. I think that would be the smartest move Invicta could make in a long time, even more so than getting out of Kansas City. So Shannon Knapp, if you happen to watch this, schedule an event for May 5th or May 3rd in Denver, and invite some One Championship fighters, invite some One Championship and executives to the event. Definitely invite Rich Franklin, because he's one of the one of the chief talent scouts for, one championship, besides, being one of the vice presidents there. I think you got to do it, Invicta. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Like I said, Invicta 51 goes down Wednesday, January 18th in Denver, Colorado. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you liked the video, please hit that like button. And while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe to WMMA Now, the best, most complete women's mixed martial arts dedicated platforms on YouTube. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.